Hi everybody, this is Gijs again with another video and I hope you are doing well. This time it is a update video on the video review that I did earlier this year on the DJI Pocket 2 combo version. Because after I released the video, quite soon after that one, DJI released a firmware update that I did not talk about, and I got so many nice remarks, comments and questions from all of you that I thought let's take a look at those questions and the comments that you gave, and let's make a new video out of this so that all of you get some more updated answers. And since I've been using this one now for almost a year, I have also got, of course, some more experience than I could share in those days back then. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about the DJI Pocket 2 combo version, and especially about all the tricks that you can do with the basically separate microphone, then you should definitely watch this video. Enjoy! And welcome back to the update video on the DJI Pocket 2 combo version. Now, for those of you who follow me already for some time, you know why this update is so late. It's got to do with my voice. For those who don't know this, please watch the video that I did on this. It will be in the description below, the link. So watch that one if you are curious, but it's not important for this video. First of all, I would like to thank all of you who made so much nice comments and questions on the DJI Pocket 2, because that really set me to get more into depth basically on this one that I've been using already for such a long time. For those of you who are new to my channel, you might not know who I am. My name is Gijs. I am a Dutch outdoor gear and bike reviewer, and I do my work totally independent, so that means that nobody is sponsoring my videos. I'm not being paid by manufacturers whatsoever, and if I review a product, then I send it back to the manufacturer, unless if I want it, then I ask for a bill, of course. Now in this case, DJI sent this one to me, then I sent it back again, and I bought this one just in a regular store. So this is actually mine, and I've been testing this or been using this now for more than a year. Now, when I did the review video, quite soon after that, DJI came with a firmware update, and this firmware update had some consequences for how I use and how many other people use basically the P2. That's how I like to call it, the P2. It's like R2D2 P2. That update, not everybody liked it, and I was one of them. So let me discuss a little bit about what the update was all about. Now, the first thing is, and now I'll have to switch the Pocket 2 off, was a change in how you fire up basically the Pocket 2. Because in the old days, and if you did not do the firmware update, you just press the button, it's the power button on the side, and the camera switches on. But what you will see now is that after the firmware update, the camera is not facing into the world, but it is facing basically towards me. And this is for everybody who uses the Pocket 2 or looks for a camera to use as a vlogging camera. This is a perfect way to fire up the Pocket 2, because now it is in selfie mode. Now let me switch it off again. Nothing is changed here. But now for me, as a guy who does a lot of landscape shooting, or I put the Pocket 2 somewhere on a tripod or on a tree or on its little tripod that it comes with the combo version, I just wanted to face the world basically so that it can shoot me, for example in the tracking mode. I want it to follow me, and then I don't want it facing towards me in selfie mode. Now what did they do? And now we'll have to switch it around a bit. Now next to the record button is the function button, and now if I press this one, you will see that the DJI Pocket 2 fires up, in this case facing towards me, but in normal life it will be like this, and now it's facing the world again. So now I've got basically two options how to turn on the P2, in selfie mode or in facing the world mode. That's how I like to call it. That's one of the updates. The other one is, and now we'll have to turn it around again, is that on this side there is this 3.5 jack opening, and this is a microphone in and earphone out jack opening basically. So now you can plug a microphone in here and you can plug a headphone in here. Now let me face it towards you again. The third thing that changed is basically how to lock the gimbal. Before the firmware update, I could lock the gimbal by pressing the function button. And then I had to keep pressing it to lock the gimbal. And this is not very practical, and it doesn't feel very comfortable because your thumb and the control, or basically the handle, they are in a quite of a awkward, non-comfortable position. Now what DJI did is that the button next to the joystick, if I press it a bit longer, you will see a little lock appearing in the screen, and now the gimbal is basically locked. And now the movement of the handle doesn't do anything for the gimbal. Now if I press it again once, it unlocks, and then the gimbal follows the movement of the handle again. Now there's one other thing that changed in the update, and that is that HDR video was added. And I'm not going to talk a lot about HDR video because I don't use it at all, not in my outdoor life. There was one remark from somebody who commented that the update, yes, it's got HDR video at the moment, but it still does not have 4K video. And also a lot of people talked about that the image was darker than the regular video, it was more cropped. So I'm not sure if this update on the HDR, adding it, if that was really useful. If it is, then please send a comment again on below this video, because I'm really curious to know about this. And also why I should use HDR video, because I don't see any purpose for it in my videos, to be honest. I like the quality in 4K. I mostly shoot in 24 frames a second at 4K. I like it a lot. It gives me a lot of room to play with. So that's what I use this camera for, and not more than that. Now there are a few little tweaks on the update as well, which I think are not very important to mention. If you want to know that, just visit the DJI website. I'll put the link below. There is a small document on the firmware update. I also asked DJI if there is going to be a new firmware update anywhere soon, and well, basically I don't have that answer yet. They did not respond to my email, except that they were going to investigate. And of course, in that same email, I also asked if there is going to be a Pocket 3 anywhere soon. But also on this, I don't have any confirmation. So your guess is as good as mine. But be aware that around the Christmas period, big brands are always doing nice new things. Just to let you know. Now, let's go back to the Pocket 2. In my review, I made basically two remarks on the design. And the first one was that I don't like the on-off button, how it is designed, and that I don't like the design of the SD card slot. And I will have to explain this a little bit more. Now, I will take the P2, switch it off, and I'll put it in its casing. And this is how you've seen me do it in the video, and this is how I still do it. And you all say that this is basically the wrong way around. And yes, I've read the manual, and the manual says that the on-off button should be inside the casing. So I will turn it around and do it the official way. And this is how you and how DJI would like me to do it. And yes, in this way the button is protected. But what I don't like in this way is that the SD card slot, which is still an opening, is exposed to the outside. And if I put this one in my pocket, a little bit of dust might get in there. And when I'm outdoors, even a little bit of moisture might get in there. So what I would like to see in a P3 is that the SD card slot is going to have a rubbery thingy over it, just like they do on some of their drones. Now, design-wise on the on-off button, and let me turn it around again, what I would like to see is that they make a sort of a hill around the on-off button. So when I put this one inside my pocket, I touch the hill and I don't really touch the button. That would make life so much more easy for me, and I would never end up with an empty battery when I take it out my pocket, for example, again. Now I'm talking about the casing anyway. You also made a, let me put the tripod on there again. You also made a remark that I did not store the microphone in a correct way. Yes, a lot of you commented that I should store the microphone on top, because this is how it is designed. Yeah, this is how it is designed, and what I feel in my outdoor life, or what I experience, is that in this way it only gets bigger, and this is always a sort of thingy that's always in the way when I put it inside my pocket. So I hardly ever do this. I always store the microphone basically in a separate pocket or somewhere else inside my jacket. Now let's take the casing off again, because there are a few more remarks that I can make on the casing itself. In my review video I told you that you can store all those small adapters and also the wide angle lens inside the casing. Well, I did that for about still 6 weeks after the release of the video, and then I lost the wide angle lens because it was not a very snug fit anymore in there, and the same thing basically for the adapters for the Android or for my iPhone. They have the tendency to fall out by now. So basically the fit is not that snug after a lot of usage. So nowadays I use a little wallet basically, and that's where I store the small accessories in. That's way more secure and you never ever have the chance of losing them. That's something that you should know. And that's also good when I review stuff later on again. Experience, it tells a lot. Now let me switch the camera on. So now it's facing towards you again in the friendly mode. Now there was one thing that I did not discuss in the review video at all, and that were the follow modes that come with the DJI P2. But before I head on by explaining basically the follow modes, there is something that you should know how a gimbal works. A gimbal, it is freely rotating in basically 3 axles, and because this is a stabilized gimbal, of course it is a stabilized movement. What you should know now is that basically there are 3 ways of moving. This one is the first one. It's the pen mode, going from left to right and from right to left. And of course I can do this with the joystick as well. That's how it works. Now then there is the roll mode, and the roll mode is basically around this axle. And I'll face the camera, you will see it's around this axle. And there is a third one, of course, and that is the tilt. And tilt is, and I'll use the joystick for this one, it's just going down and up. So those are the 3 axes that a gimbal has, and by stabilizing it, that's basically how you get a very stable image, because those axles are controlled by the electronics. Now, when you use the gimbal, of course, there is the handle you hold on to, and every movement that you make with the handle can influence basically the gimbal head. Now, there are 4 modes that DJI came up with, and the first one is the follow mode. And in the follow mode, the pen and tilt axles just follow the movement of the handle. The roll axle just stays level. Now, and I'll show you this. Now, what you will see that if I use it, it will turn, but the roll axle will not do anything. This one stays totally still. I use the follow mode quite a lot because it's a very nice mode if you are shooting a landscape, for example. And the reason that I did not talk about it is just because I hardly shoot anybody else. But sometimes my wife shoots me, and then I always put it in follow mode because it's the most easiest mode to use. Now, the second one is the one that the tilt is locked. And the tilt, that was this up and down movement. The reason why, and I will switch it to you, is that if you've got the tilt locked, like you see now, it is very nice to do shots that go basically from high to low or from low to high. Because now you can do a movement and still have the camera facing towards the subject, and you can basically travel on the subject. So sometimes I use that one, but still not a lot. The third mode is the first person view, and then the roll, the tilt and the pen axle, they are all free to move. Now you will see that the head, the gimbal head, it moves a little bit slower to what I do, but you get a really nice, like I like to call it, stunt aeroplane kind of image. It's very dynamic, and in that way it can be very attractive if you use it well. Don't use it all the time. Last but not least, and this is the fourth basically follow option that you have, and that is to lock the gimbal in place. Now basically I don't need to speak about this anymore because I already mentioned it in the firmware update. The method with pressing basically the function button continuously, yes, now the gimbal, it's not affected by any movement that I do with my hand or with the gimbal handle. And this is nice to do when you're taking long shots by following somebody with not any abrupt movements. You get a very nice stable shot in this way. But to be totally honest, with the new method in pressing basically the button next to the joystick a little bit longer and you lock it in place, I feel that one is a bit more comfortable and I don't have to use my thumb the whole time to press the function button. So yes, in the firmware update I think that feature is really improved. Now that was what I had to tell you about the follow mode and how I use it. Now let's continue with a lot of your questions, and that's why my laptop is here, because I cannot remember everything by heart the whole time. A lot of you asked me the question that since the Pocket 2 does not have a battery that you can change, it's incorporated in the design, what my thoughts are on that. Well, in the first place, the battery, for me, it lasts long enough. DJI says it lasts for 140 minutes at 1080 and 20 frames per second. I measured it because I do a lot in 4K. I measured about 55 minutes. For me, that is fine for my way of using this camera. But still, yes, if this one would have batteries that are exchangeable, of course that would have made the P2, in my opinion, better. And I really don't know why DJI did not do it. Because I know now, after about a year of usage, that the battery time, especially when it's a bit colder, it gets a little bit less by now. So I'm really wondering how long this will last. And if it can be exchanged, then, well, of course, it's better for the sustainability also. There was one question that appeared also quite a lot, and that was the possibility to charge the Pocket 2 while shooting with a power bank. Now, yes, I use a power bank and of course the cable that DJI provides with the kit to charge the Pocket 2 when I'm shooting. But I have to make a remark on this, because DJI strongly advises against this, because the unit itself, because of the processing of all the data, it can get quite hot. And when you charge it in the same time, it might become too hot and it might break. When I use a external power bank, I make sure that the temperature is cold enough, and that means basically below 15 degrees, and I'm never shooting in full sun because that might influence the temperature of the Pocket 2 as well. So yes, it is possible, it's not advised, but it can extend your shooting time quite a lot, and with this one actually up to more than about 4 hours. But then you also need a special SD card. And that was one of those other questions that you had. What kind of SD card do I use? Well, I use the one basically that DJI advises. It is a SanDisk 64 gigabyte micro SD card, of course. Sometimes I use the 128 gigabyte. But be aware, if you use very big cards, you also have got the tendency to shoot way more images than you actually need. It's more about planning ahead, because all the data that you shoot, of course, you also have to process. So I'll try to shoot as effective as I can, basically on a 64 gigabyte card. Now, one other thing about batteries, and that was a question from some of you on basically the battery of the wireless microphone that comes in the combo kit. DJI says that it lasts for about 6 hours. Is that long enough? Oh yes, it is long enough, because what I notice when I'm shooting with the Pocket 2, let's say I get about an hour. So this one always outsurvives basically the life with a normal battery on board the P2 of the life of the P2. So yes, that one lasts long enough. Talking about mics, like I explained to you somewhere in the beginning, because of the external microphone input opening on the do-it-all handle and the function that came with the firmware update, and also with one on the wireless remote microphone, I did some shooting outdoors. So let's go outdoors. Now, if you've seen the video review on the DJI Pocket 2 combo, then you know that I am very fond of the wireless microphone. It's quite small, even if you compare it to some other brands that are onto the market and that sell separate sets basically. And it is very easy to operate. It's got a on-off button, and there is a button to connect it to the do-it-all handle so that they both can communicate to each other to link it. And you can see the green light here. That means that it is linked. Now, what I did not know at the time when I was doing the review video is that that button has a double function, because it is also a shutter release button. So when I put the camera over somewhere and I'm not using my smartphone basically to operate the camera on a distance, then I can press this button, and when I press it, the DJI Pocket 2 will start recording, and when I press it again, it will stop recording. So in that way, you don't have to walk up and forth towards the camera. And I think that is really a clever thing. Now, the sound that I'm recording at the moment, it's all done by this small device. And one thing that I made a comment on that I did not like is that when I put this one on my jacket, it is quite big and bulky, and I think it doesn't look that beautiful. So therefore, I tried a little thing, because when I shoot videos, I use a Sennheiser set, a transmitter and a receiver that's connected to my Panasonic GH5 camera, and I have a lavalier, which is a very small microphone. You can put it onto your jacket. You hardly see it, and you put the transmitter somewhere on your back. Now, this is of course way smaller, but what I can do now is remove the fluffy parts, and then you will see that behind the fluffy part there is a opening for a 3.5mm jack. Now, my Sennheiser has a 3.5mm jack, and I can put this one into that opening. Now, one thing that I discovered is that because this one has a screwy, nutty thing to really lock it in place on my Sennheiser transmitter, it takes a very nice connection, and normally what I do is when I use it in this setup, I use some duct tape to connect basically the jack into the transmitter. Now, you will see the orange light. That means that it is connected to the transmitter and that the transmitter is connected to the do-it-all handle, and so the sound that you hear now is basically the sound from this little lavalier. And I can hide this one on my jacket, hide the transmitter in a pocket, and I have got a very, very clean setup with high quality sound. Now, was this all? No, not yet. Let me give another example what I like doing with this little set. Take it off, and I'll put the lavalier somewhere else. And now what I also can do is, because it's got that 3.5 jack opening, I can connect it to for example, a bigger microphone. Again, wait till it's orange. And now it's recording with this Rode vlogging microphone, and this one I like it a lot, especially when it's very windy. This one does a perfect job. But it's also nice if you want to record, for example, some sounds of nature. And at the place where I am now, in this nature reserve, we've got a lot of birds in the water, and it's very nice to put this microphone with the DJI transmitter near the waterfront and leave the camera with me inside the bushes. I can do some bird watching and still record the sounds that the birds are making for the footage. In this way, it is a really nice way of using the DJI microphone. And there's one other clever thing that I did. I think it's clever. Now, where did I leave the fluffy part? It's gray. Sometimes you lose it if you're not careful. It clicks on. Some people say it's just by magnets. It's not totally true. So now it's connected. If you don't like this one to be on your jacket because it's very visible, what you also can do is just put it, for example, in a tree, on a branch, like so. And if this one is a little bit out of the way or maybe above the P2 itself, you won't see it and it will still record the sound very, very well. Now, lots of reasons why I like the DJI microphone so much. And welcome back in my little studio, and I hope you like my backyard basically. There's one thing that I did not talk about in that piece of video, and that was on basically the reception between the Pocket 2 and the wireless microphone in distance. Well, in the street that I live in with tarmac cars and houses, I measure quite often a distance from 25 to 50 meters. And why this gap between the 25 and the 50 is there, I don't know. Maybe it's got to do with the weather, maybe it's got to do with the signal bouncing between cars or bushes, I really don't know. But 25 meters, at least that's a solid number. That is also a solid number that I get when I do the testing in my backyard. This is the nature reserve basically next to my house. And I spend a lot of time here. And it's wonderful to see at this time of the year the geese that are in the water and making this ridiculous sound all together, like something big debate is going on. Maybe they're discussing some sort of pandemic among geese. I don't know, it's politics. And now this is why I like the wireless microphone so much, because now I've got the microphone attached to basically my backpack and I can still do some decent sound quality and talk you into my basically lovely nature reserve. And I can do this quite with the distance, because now I am about 10 meters away, but it will go, as long as the reception is facing towards the camera, it will do about 25 meters quite decently. Now, one thing that I can't stress enough is make sure that whatever you use, if you use the wireless microphone or if you use a lavalier attached to the wireless microphone, or if you plug a microphone in here, always check that it really works. And you can see the connection with the green light over here, or you can see it in screen if the microphone is connected and that the reception is there just by the microphone symbol. And if you've got a remote microphone attached to it, you will see the microphone but with a blue Y underneath it, and then you know everything is okay. But double check this always before you start recording your big scene. Now, one thing that I also did not mention in the review, but which is quite handy to know, is that you can use the joystick in a different way. Of course, the most used way is probably to use the joystick as a way to turn around the gimbal. That's how you use it. But sometimes you might want to use it as a zoom function, because that one is there as well. And that's just simply pressing this button, the button next to the joystick, rapidly 1, 2, twice. And now you will see that if I do this, the joystick functions as a zoom. Now, from zoom, it is a very little step to talk about the wide angle lens, because that was one of the other questions that quite a lot of you asked. How is the wide angle lens in relation to basically the standard lens on the P2? Well, I did not know at that time, because I hardly use the wide angle lens, because I'm very satisfied with the standard lens that is on the P2. It is a lens with a field of view of 93 degrees, which is an equivalent of 20 millimeter lenses. And I think this is a very well balanced image. There's a lot in it, but not too much. It's not curvy around the edge that you have with some wide angle lenses. And it fits also very nicely between the lenses that I use, for example, on the Panasonic GH5 that is shooting this image, and that I use a lot outdoors as well. But with the wide angle lens, and let me grab it, it fits quite easy on here. It's magnetic. Not everybody likes it, because you might collect some dirt as well. It would be cleverer if they use a click system. But with the wide angle lens attached, you get a field of view of 110 degrees, which is an equivalent of a 15 millimeter lens. Now, if you're curious how the difference is between the standard lens and the wide angle lens, well, this is what I did. Now, this is this wonderful tree without the wide angle lens. And this is the same magnificent tree with the wide angle lens. Way more space around me! Now, for those of you who own a DJI Osmo and think about upgrading to the Pocket 2, I think that is a very clever idea, because the Osmo has a field of view of 80 degrees, the Pocket 2 of 93 degrees, or 110 if you buy the combo package. And I think that is really a clever idea, because you get so much more in the image, and next to that you get a better camera anyway. Now, I might not use the wide angle lens a lot, but I have used the Pocket P2 intensively this last year. I use it mostly as a B-roll camera, just to shoot myself in the landscape with active track, or just to shoot what my eyes are seeing. Sometimes I use it to shoot other people, and sometimes I ask complete strangers if they want to do a piece of footage on me, and I just put it in their hands. I push the record button and just tell them, well, just point at me. If I'm in the screen, you will have the shot. And it never ever fails. It is such a small, clever device. And some of you have asked me if this one is better than my iPhone on a gimbal. Oh, hell yes, it is. Because with the iPhone on a gimbal, I've still got more devices to operate, and with this I only have one device to operate, unless when I use my iPhone, of course, to operate this one. But yes, I really think this is a, well, for me, life-changing device. I've used it as a main camera a couple of times, and now I'm back at the beginning. The videos that I shot on basically the problems in my voice, they are shot with the P2, and well, basically nobody tells the difference between this one and the big expensive GH5 with a very nice lens on it. So yes, I love the P2, and I will continue shooting more and more with this one. Now, I really hope you liked this video, and if you did, then please give the video a like and leave a comment below. Also, if you've got any suggestions or remarks on this video or questions, then please use the comment section, and I'm more than happy to answer all of them. Now, if you really like what I do and want to support me, then please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, because with more subscribers on my YouTube channel, I can make more videos. And since my voice is back, I will make more videos. If you're not totally convinced yet what I do and want to see a normal review, then please follow the playlist up here, and I'll put it in the description below as well, on my outdoor gear favorites, so that you can have a better judgment on what I do normally. And if you've done that, please subscribe. Now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Enjoy the outdoors and stay safe. Ciao, ciao! And that's a wrap. Whew, and that one is still not empty. Wonderful device.